What an honor and a pleasure to be back on the stage with you guys this afternoon. In this session, we're going to invite you to join us on a journey, and we're going to tell you a story that started 1 year ago at this Social Innovation Summit in Washington, D.C. We had a panel led by my colleague Nick Fontova, Mr. Pink, joined by Ja Rule, and we talked about an NFT project that we were launching called Black is Beautiful. There was a breakout afterwards, roundtable, informal kind of follow-up session where a number of people, much like yourselves, discussed the potential and opportunity of using NFTs in Web3. This story begins a few weeks later where an audience member, much like yourselves, my good friend Rebecca, gave us a phone call. And with that, Rebecca, we're going to start off on this part of the story. Can I ask you to please introduce yourself, talk a little bit about Fidelity Charitable, and the phone call that you gave us?
Absolutely, and Zeev, thank you so much for having us here today at the Social Innovation Summit. The project we're about to talk about is very much, I consider, sort of a baby of the Social Innovation Summit, and it is just really wonderful to be here in kind of a community of doers and people with the passion for doing social good. So our organization, Fidelity Charitable, is the nation's largest grant maker. We have a donor-advised fund program that has more than 300,000 donors who last year recommended more than $11.2 billion in grants to charity.
Hold on. Wow.
Right.
That's so casual for you to say that. Right. $11 billion. That's amazing. It's incredible.
So, but the core of what we're about is really growing that tradition of philanthropy and enabling donors to give more, to make giving simple, effective, and accessible. And underneath that mission really is this core belief that every person has the power to make a difference. And we want to be in a position to really enable that to happen. And we do that both through kind of technology innovation and embracing innovation, helping people to give more, but also through programs and projects like the ones that we were talking about. And really, we were very excited about the potential of the NFTs.
So let's pick up on that. So I think you heard about this new thing called Web3 NFTs. You were curious, you're tech, you're innovative, and you had this concept. So.
And yes, and so what we wanted to do was really galvanize a discussion around generosity. So what's at the core of people's abilities to make a difference, and every day it's not just through giving, right? It's also through how are we just behaving in the world? Are we bringing people casseroles? Are we being kind? Are we bringing people together in a way, and we just really felt like the world could use a little bit more of that right at the next time, and we also thought that that the perfect medium for making that happen would be a project that would happen through the Web3 space, and so that was really the inception of Art of Generosity, which was a program that was designed to really kind of bring forward the voices of diverse artists. We brought together 12 diverse artists and asked them to create a piece, each of them a piece that was their interpretation of generosity. We made that art available in a free public mint, and we were just really blown away. We didn't know, would anybody show up? And the answer was yes. So it became the largest mint related to philanthropy, certainly that we still know about. More than 120,000 pieces were minted, more than 64,000 participants. And so we just loved that people sort of rallied around that message and this project and the work that was done there. Then we were really just at the point, and this brings us kind of to the conversation that we're about to have and where we're about to sort of change. Part of this project was that we were going to be giving $50,000 away to charity at the conclusion of the project. So there was sort of social good baked in up front. And we were all really excited as it wrapped to sort of turn our minds to how that was going to happen, celebrate the success, and then we got some really terrible, tragic news, which was that one of the artists who had participated in the project, Nick Davis, had passed away very suddenly.
Yeah, so this is a difficult moment, I think, for me and others, many of you in the room, who maybe knew Nick. He was young, and we'll have Tiffany maybe pick up the story from here, but I think going from the success of the Art of Generosity project, and if we have a moment, we can maybe show a couple of the pieces close in, to getting a phone call and hearing some terrible news. And so, Tiffany, maybe tell us a little bit from here, what happened.
Hi, guys. So I had to write my notes because no other way this is going to happen. But I'll just read it verbatim. Today, we honor the arts. The time, diligence, tenacity, and pure creativity that it takes to make us all feel our feelings from time to time anyway. Today we celebrate an artist that poured until his cup was empty, Nick Davis of Indie Art Life. The name Nicholas directly translates to the phrase, victory of the people. And although he hardly ever saw himself in that light, my late husband embodied that phrase. Goodness and mercy truly did follow him. He chose to liberate the mind and the perspective of a Black man through exposing it through art, exposing his anxieties and his depressions, and putting all of those emotions into each still image. I had a front row seat with backstage passes to see this man bloom, seeking light and understanding in his community, and creating images showing the very lives of those who inspired him. Nick gave credit often to Jean-Michel Basquiat, Carrie James Marshall, Carrie Walker, Kehinde Wiley, amongst others, for their representation of Black America, but there was something extra special about the way Nick portrayed us. He would create images of like children and elders and families and every kind of reality, and his art was the manifestation of a Black man's heart for his people. And I considered it Black people being Black comfortably. It's just the narrative that this world doesn't portray often, and Nick did it with ease. While the images are rich in Black skin, you can easily find yourself in one of the 1,000+ pieces. I watched this man for 14 years create time and time again works of art that made you feel seen and heard, understood. It's like he knew you without ever speaking to you. Images of men crying and children at play, women in the churches, like it was home. Each piece is like home. And to be loved by a man like that, who knew that his days were numbered, I experienced the purest form of love, and I really hope that each of you get to experience the level of compassion that this man had. And that for me was, he was a friend. He was my friend. And having a vision to keep pouring and to keep pouring until there's nothing left is what I hope all of us can show others, and give that kind of love and give that kind of support to where you just keep going until there's nothing left. That way when you do pass, it wasn't in vain because you gave all you had. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's enough, even if it's just, and I love you and I appreciate you. Mm-hmm. That's enough some days. Mm-hmm. So with this short video, you get to see his heart, and you get to understand a little bit of what I understood.
My biggest thing is to take as much time as I have to inspire people who aren't mentioned in the world. I come from a community where certain colors aren't allowed, or it's looked down upon if a man cries. So, inspired by Basquiat, Carrie James Marshall, Jacob Lawrence, what I understood from them was, if you want to be the change you want to see, you have to be the one to put it out. Maya Angelou says, if you're always trying to be normal, you never know how amazing you can be. And that's my biggest goal, is to inspire everyone to love themselves from someone who struggles to see his own greatness. Thankful for my wife to always inspire me, encourage me. But it's important to know your value and to know that your dreams are valid. And with every opportunity I have, I just want to remind people to love yourself and just know that everything is happening for a reason.
are so beautiful. Oh, gosh. Okay, sorry. We got to spend a really great year with Nick and Tiffany. A bunch of us had opportunities to go to Art Basel Miami and NFT NYC. And, I think we were all really impacted by Nick and his life. One of the things that we recognized as we heard the news was that the project that we mentioned, Art of Generosity, was in a position to support Nick and the Davis family and the legacy. And so maybe, Becky, you can share a little bit about what we thought of next, what could maybe make sense as an opportunity to carry that story forward.
Absolutely. And, again, for us, the purpose of this project was to inspire conversations about generosity. It was to really help to, again, galvanize people to reflect on what generosity meant to them and what they could give back to the world. And as we reflected, it was very clear to us that both in the piece that Nick created for the project and also as we came to know him more through conversations with you, Tiffany, that the way not only that he created his art, but that he lived his life was really an embodiment of those values, right?
Absolutely.
And so we were in a position to be able to say that we could take some of those funds that we had dedicated to give to charity as a part of this project and select organizations that we felt would really kind of carry forward those values and help them continue to live in the world and be a part of not only Nick's legacy, but a legacy of kind of the project and hopefully a way to continue and spark the conversation further. So we were delighted to be able to spend some time with Tiffany, getting to know Nick better, and really starting to have some conversations around what would be the best way that we could go with that.
Yep, so we have allocated those funds out to the United Negro College Fund, St. Petersburg, Florida, their free clinic, Project Art, as well as Donors Choose.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. One thing that I would just like to share, we had a series of conference calls and emails and really asked a few difficult questions. What did Nick's life look like? What were his values? What would his legacy look like? If Nick were here, where would he want to see his voice and his passion kind of carry forward? And Becky, I know you were very much on the front lines. Maybe you can share a moment about one or two of the organizations, why they were chosen, and some of the ways that they're going to use the funds.
Absolutely, and I think really centered in what how we arrived at these particular charities as we, again, looked at Nick's values. It was clear we needed to have at least one organization that was close to the community where he lived and
Absolutely.
loved, St. Petersburg, Florida. That we would want to have organizations that really centered equity in their practices, in their operations, and in the populations that they served. That we would want organizations that prioritized art, and that also prioritized young people, and also really, and Tiffany, you and I were talking about this earlier, that worked because there are so many ways to get at those issues, right? And I think that one of the things that we talked about together is just that we wanted organizations that worked in a really human, kind of human-centered way. And I do think that we have in the audience today some of the representatives from UNCF and Donors Choose. So if you're here, you want to raise your hand and wave. We're really delighted to have you here with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And so we've been just really excited to work with these charities. With Donors Choose has an equity focus, equity track that specifically allows you to choose projects that are in schools, that operate in schools where at least half of the population are students from underrepresented group and also that are high poverty, and make sure that those projects receive funding, and specifically looking at projects in the arts and technology, and projects prioritizing racial equity teaching tools. So that's one of the areas. Project Art is another incredible organization that they are really focused on, they bring art lessons to students who don't have access using the public library system. And they are actually going to create a curriculum based on Nick's art and bring that around in this fall and start rolling that out to their programs. The St. Pete Free Clinic, of course, their service, their model is not just to provide medical care, but holistic care for individuals in the community, recognizing that, health outcomes track in a lot of different ways. And of course, UNCF, which does amazing work helping to support HBCUs and the students who attend them, and really serving as an organization that raises up the next generation of Black leaders. And so there as well, that organization is going to be devoting some of these funds for scholarships.
And I think we skipped the number, so it's a total of $25,000 that is generously being donated to these organizations, which is really wonderful. If we can ask for the last slide, maybe Tiffany, as we kind of wind down our panel briefly, this is the piece that Nick Davis created for the Art of Generosity. And I just invite you to take a moment and read the quote and look at it. It's entitled Sundays, an intentional space between sun and days. And I don't know, I feel like I hear Nick talking through this piece. And so maybe Tiffany, share with us, a final thought, maybe what you would want the audience to do or what comes to your mind when you see this piece and you think about Nick.
So, anytime, I'm trying to get my words together. I'm gonna be really transparent right now. Okay, we're going there. So being with a man like Nick, he was stubborn like a bull, but in the most soft way. If you ever met him, you'd see his physical presence, and then you hear him talk, and you're like, these two things don't go together. So looking at his art, there were times that he would wake up at 5 in the morning and go to sleep at 2 in the morning and would just draw. You spoke about the curriculum through Project Art, and I was talking to his best friend and was like, so it's gonna be 16 hours a day of drawing for 3.5 years straight. That's how you create these kinds of works. And although they look simple and primitive, there's so much you can see. You see yourself in each piece. So looking at his art and going through his portfolio and all the random pieces of paper around my house that have doodles on them, it's like he lives. And I always say the legacy lives. Dreams don't die, so follow them, please. They don't die. That image you had in your head when you were 6 years old and you wanted to grow up and become an astronaut, it's a very tangible thought. So take that one thing that makes you embody the pureness of just wholesome joy in your heart. Take that and run with it, and let that be the fuel to leave something here. Leave here empty, like Nick left here empty. He poured out every day for years and years. And I hope that we all get to experience that kind of peace when it's our time, that we know we left here empty and we gave everything we had. Thanks.
Wow.